This is an example of a dice game that your students can create in Microsoft Excel. It will teach them some Excel skills and also some coding skills. The program uses VBA, which is Visual Basic for Applications, and you can access that by hitting Alt F11, and that should bring up a window which contains all the code for your program. So we'll go back to Excel. First, I would like to give you an overview of how to play the game and just read the instructions. It says each player will take turns rolling the dice. The player will decide if they want to use the numbers separately or add them together. They will check the numbers off the list in their column. The first player to check off numbers 1 through 12 on their list wins. If the player rolls doubles, then they roll again. So let's play a game. So player 1 should go first. We'll roll the dice. And they could check off a 5 and a 1 or a 6. So let's have them check off a 5 and a 1. And then player 2, roll the dice, 4 and 3 or 7. Let's take the 7. Player 1, roll the dice, a 1 and a 2 or a 3. Let's take the 3. Roll the dice for player number 2, a 4 and a 6. Both are available. Let's take both of those, or we could have taken the 10. Player 1, roll the dice, 3 and 5 are both taken, so let's take the 8. Player number 2, a 2 and a 3, like that. And player number, whoops, forgot the 3. Player number 1, a 1 and a 3 or a 4. Let's take the 4. So play will continue until one of the players fills in all their numbers, and that is the winner. In order to restart the game, they'll just highlight the game board, hit delete, and then they can play again. Okay, so to set the game up, there are a few things that are just simple Excel procedures, such as to put player 1 information in. Just remove that. I just typed it, player 1 into a cell. Also, I highlighted both of those cells and I just put a line underneath it. And also with these, I highlighted all those and I just put a line on the left side, left border. Give me a nice straight line here. To put the numbers in, just let me delete those so I can show you how I did it. So I put 1 here, 2 there. Then I held down my shift key, highlighted both cells, grabbed the little box in the lower right hand corner and drug it down to the bottom, and it recognizes the pattern you're trying to type and fills it in for you. So I did that for player 1, I did that for player 2. To add the instruction box here, I just went up to Insert, Shapes. I inserted a rectangle. You can right click on the rectangle, and you can either add or edit text and then just type in whatever instructions you need. I'm just going to delete that since I already have an instruction box. I can cut it. Let's cut the box. Okay. The next thing we need to do is program the action button here. So what happens when you press this button is that first it draws the dice, it puts the big red box, and it clears off any dice that may already be there and draws a new red box. And then it runs the random number generator twice, once for this die and once for this die. After it runs the random number generator, it draws the little dots on the red square so that it looks like the number that was generated by the random number generator. So let's take a look at the code behind the roll dice action button. I'm going to hit Alt F11. Brings up our code. So the program that's run is called Die Roller. Okay, and the first thing you'll see here, I declared number rolled as an integer. And then the next thing I did is I ran two procedures. One was called draw die 1, or A, and the other one is draw die B. So let's take a look at those. So here's procedure draw die A. It says with range B1 to D4, so that's the big red block. The font is going to have a size 26. The color of the font is 5, which is it's going to be blue. And then the type of the font is the wingdings, and I made the font bold. Other than that, defining the cell, anything in the cell is going to be aligned in the center horizontally and aligned in the center vertically. And the interior color of the cell will be red. That's what makes the big red block. And then this defines the width and the height of the cell. And that changes the cell width and height so that it looks more square, like a die. So after you draw die A, then you'll do the same here with you'll run this program, which is draw die B. The only thing different is that the range is different. It's F2 to H4, which is right beside die A. So back up to our first routine here. Draw die A, draw die B. Next thing we'll do is we're going to generate a random number. So we have our variable here that we declared, and we're going to set it to 0. And while that variable is equal to 0, we're going to generate a random number. Now, what this RND right here stands for a random number, and it's going to generate a number between 0 and under 1. So greater 0 or greater and less than 1. What we need to do is we need to multiply that by 7 in order to get an integer between 0 and 6. So it's a little complicated, but it works. So we're going to keep generating a number until we get something that's not equal to 0, which means it will be a 1 through a 6. Once we get that random number, we will display the number on die A, passing the number to the subprogram. Okay, so let's take a look at the subprogram here. It's called display number on die A. Let's look for that down here. And here it is. Display number on die A. And we have the rolled as an integer. So it's another variable just for this little routine here, but that contains the value of the random number that was generated above. Okay, first thing we do is we're going to clear the contents of the die. So anything that was there from the previous roll will disappear. And then we're going to test it and see what number was rolled. What is the value in our variable? So is it a 1? If it is, let's put a value of 1 in the C3 cell, which is the dead center of that big red square. Now, value of 1 in wingdings is that black circle. So that makes it look like a die because we're using the wingdings font. So if the number generated was a 2, in case it was a 2, then we're going to display 2 black circles, one in cell B2 and one in cell D4. And that will make it look like the 2 on a die. Same with 3, except for it's cell B2, C3, and D4. So that will give you that nice 3 nice diagonal black circles to make it look like a die with 3 on it. So we do the same with 4, 5, and 6. So whichever number is rolled, we will display a black circle in the appropriate cell to make the cell, the red square, look like a die. Okay, so once we've displayed the first random number on die A, then we're going to roll another random number. We can use the same variable again, number rolled, because we're finished with it up here. And we want to generate a random number until we get something other than 0. So rand is the function, generates the number. We're going to multiply it by 7. We're going to convert it into an integer, which takes away all the decimal points. And we're going to put in our variable called number rolled. Then we're going to pass that value to display number on die B. And we'll go down here to the bottom. We'll look for, there's A. We already did that one. And here's display number on die B. The code is exactly the same as die A, except you'll notice that the location is different. So now we're dealing with the second red block, which is F2 to H4. We're going to clear the contents, and then we're going to check to see what value is in our variable. If it's a 1, this time we're going to put it the value of 1 in G3, which is dead center of that second large square, or the second die. And again, we'll just look down through here. You're going to do case 2, case 3, all the way to 6, and there's the values if a 6 is rolled. Okay, so we've looked at all the code that's behind this action button right here. So let's review how to make an action button. First of all, I just go up to Insert, and I'm going into Shapes, and I'm going to pick the oval, create an oval, and then right click, add or edit text, and I'm going to call it roll. Dice, and click off of it. Now I want to assign all that code to be run when I click on it. So I'm going to right click on the button, and I'm going to say assign macro, and it'll bring up a list of the macros that are that we just coded. So the first one is called die roller. That's the main macro that runs all the other macros, so that's the only one we want to use. So we're going to say OK, and now we'll click off of it and click back on it and see if it runs our code. There we go. Changes the numbers on the die. Okay, so that's how you put add an action button. It's very simple, but we really don't need it because we already have this one. I'm just going to right click and cut that out because we have this one. That still works also because the same macro is attached to this action button. So that's the dice game in Excel. I hope your students have fun playing and learning how to code this very simple game. Thank you.